I mean, I could nerd out right now because you mentioned battle rap and be like Murder Mook, Loaded Lux, who you got, but instead, because you didn't name top 5 MCs, because it's quite hard to, I'll admit that it's hard for me. For Royce the 5'9" is one of my top 5 FYI, and he's obviously a Detroit, Michigan, you know, hero, hometown hero.
Yeah, he's amazing.
But what about top 5 M songs?
I'd say The Way I Am.
That cadence is crazy.
That song is ridiculous. I think the Eminem Show is one of the best like albums ever. White America, Cleaning Out My Closet, Sing for the Moment. There's so many dope songs. I don't know.
I noticed I don't know if everybody would have caught it, but in the When I Grow Up video, you had the reference to the Marshall Mathers where you're dragging the garbage out.
Oh, I wasn't doing it for that. I was doing
But do you know how exact it looks? There was a photograph in that album rollout, and you look, it's a spitting image.
You're talking about the Marshall Mathers LP? Mm. Yeah, I know what photo you're talking about, but I wasn't doing it for that. I was working at a fast food place, hauling trash out, you know? So
that was going to be my next question. Before you became who you are now, what regular job did you have?
I used to do electrical work. I ran wires in houses and climbed in attics and crawl spaces.
Did you ever get fired? Or did you quit quite as abruptly?
I did kind of get gently fired with my boss, who I'm like actually close with.
What happened?
Honestly, I just wasn't focused. I wanted.
Did you electrocute somebody?
I wanted to do I wanted to do music, so I wasn't really focused. But the one thing I did find out was, and I gave this suggestion to someone, or like if you were like, hey, what's a suggestion you would give to any artist or like to help them in their career? And one thing I said was keep your job while you're trying to do it. I think people are like, oh, you need to just quit your job. And it's like, for me, I was a perfect example of that. I tried to do music for a year full time, and it was basically like having a store with no product in it. So it's like, hey, I'm an artist, I want to do a show. It's like, okay. They walk into your store and it's like, well, there's nothing in here. There's no music, there's no you know? I was trying to just pay my bills, but I wasn't building a business, I wasn't building a career, I wasn't getting better at writing. I was so concerned every month with paying a bill. After a year of being broke, I mean, I think the one year I made like $12,000 total. And it was just like, I can't do anything, I can't pay to record. In the studio I was going to, I mean, I wasn't paying a lot of money at all. It's just, I'd go in there and be in there for an hour and I'd be like, oh, we have to finish this as quickly as possible. You know, here's $40, you know? And so I ended up going back to work. My producer that I worked with from the beginning, basically, Tommy, I'd go to his house and I'd do like 4 songs, and I still remember this story. Him and I laugh about it. We were like in his driveway and I was like, man, so like, what do I gotta pay you for these 4 songs? And he was like, he had like a square. He was like, man, what about like 500, 600 bucks or something, you know? And like for 4 songs, that's nothing. And I just remember like sweating, like giving him that money, you know? But
just reeling it off.
Yeah, like, but I look back on it now and I'm like, I'm so happy I did that. And I'm so glad, like, he's one of my best friends.
Well, you're here because of that. You know, it's an investment.
Exactly.
It's an investment.
Exactly. So I wouldn't tell people to not take risks. I mean, when I signed my record deal, I still worked for like 6 months at my job. And it's because I was like, I don't want to get in the same position again, where it's like, if something goes wrong, I don't want to not be able to pay Tommy or pay someone to keep recording music, because that's always been my biggest marketing tool, you know, is the actual product of being like, hey, no, if you actually listen to this, you might like it. Because you can, I said this in my No Name song. I started getting like a little frustrated because I saw some people being like, oh, this is marketed so much. And it's like, because he's on Capitol or whatever, this is why it's working. And it's just like, I'm not saying some of that isn't helping what's happening, but the music has always been like the driving force with my fans, and they've always been so like connected to the music.
It's the front-facing thing. It's what represents who you are.
It's like people think, sometimes the outside appearance is always interesting to me because I'm so in it. I see the numbers, I see the business. I'm, you know, me and my wife run our online store. Like, we know how things work. We know how the shows work, and all the stuff like that. So sometimes I get, it's so interesting to me. It goes back to the underdog thing. I think sometimes people don't realize like how big the fan base is now. The truth is, I'm still going out on a tour where most, if not all the dates, a lot of times have been sold out, and it just keeps growing. And I understand that someday that may not be the case, but I'd rather love, or try to learn to love what I'm doing and get better at my craft and keep putting out music for people that want to listen to it than try to cater to everyone who like doesn't want to listen to it.